when you have these turns, they don't happen gradually. And you always have a short covering that happens at the bottom. And, all of a sudden you wake up, and copper prices are up 15 or 20 or 25%. Looks like things will be tightening up, definitely in the second half. So quite keen on, to see that coming down the pipeline for nickel.
Welcome to Crux Investor. First of all, thanks so much for watching this video. If you like it, do give us a thumbs up. It'd be much appreciated. And of course, leave us your comments below. It helps us to understand the sorts of questions you think we should be asking, what you think of the interviewee, and of course, how you think we're doing. And if you haven't already done so, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, for more videos like this one, click the notification bell. We spoke earlier today to Mark Selby. He is the CEO of Canada Nickel. He's also a market commentator on the nickel market. So we thought we'd catch up following our discussion with him a few weeks ago where we talked about hitting and understanding market bottoms. Now, the Chinese numbers came out last week. It looks like they're getting back into the full swing of things. We asked Mark what he thinks the implication of that is for metals companies globally and for investors, of course. So do take a look at the description below at some of the topics we cover. If it's anything that interests you in particular, you can click on the number beside that topic, which is a timestamp, which will take you to that part of the video. Enjoy what Mark has to say. Hey Mark, how are you doing?
Great, Matthew. Good to see you again.
Long time. It's been days.
Yeah.
Actual days. I don't see you for months and then you show up.
Bang, bang. There you go.
Fantastic. Yep. Good. I'm glad that I'm talking to you because I wanted to catch up on something we talked about a few weeks ago, which was trying to identify bottoms.
Yeah.
Bottoms of the market. And how you went about doing that. And I know we started a conversation. We said we'd kind of pick up again because the market's been through a few waves, which we talked about. I think way back when in December about the scrap market being influential on nickel, but then we've obviously had a few market movements as well. So. What's your take on this with regards to the metals market at the moment? Have we reached the bottom?
Yeah, no, I think in China, I think we have based on the various metrics. If you go back to the discussion we had earlier, I talked about a bunch of market premium type information that's there. Taking a look at changes in pricing for metal in various forms and how that's stacking up. And then three, in terms of, what's happening in the scrap market, that's there. So, the latest sort of data over China over the last month or so, copper is always, the biggest metal. So that's all, obviously a good indicator. And so you see, the ARB, the premium of the price in China versus outside China. So there's a incentive to import material into China, is at 18-month plus highs. The one that I always like to see is a copper concentrate terms, because what happens at these inflection points, both top and bottom, here we're talking about a bottom, is that the Chinese just decide copper's cheap at this price, and I think the price is going to go higher. So I just want to grab copper in whatever form it's in, cathode, concentrate, scrap, whatever. I just want copper units on my way, priced at today's price, and if they get delivered in a month, 2 months, 4 months, I hopefully I'm going to sell that at a great big profit. And so, copper concentrate terms again are multi-year lows. So that is a real sign that sort of the buy is on right now. The Chinese import data for the month of April came in, and you see stuff. Again, given how brutal things were in February, March, you're going to see month over month increases, but we're actually seeing significant year over year increases in imports in a bunch of materials as well.
But that's them playing catch up, right? Yeah. That's all that's telling us, is that they're playing catch up because not much was happening for a while. So what do you think the government is instructing Chinese companies to do now? Play catch up, or just run along at the normal levels here? I mean, because we've been talking to uranium companies, and if we look at some of the big producers there, they're saying they're not going to play catch up. They're just going to continue at the rates they were pre-COVID, etc. So have you any insight as to what's happening in China?
Yeah, I mean, again, in China, I mean, the every recession, 2001, 3, 8, and slow down in the middle part of the last, the way, one of the big levers is just in terms of infrastructure and construction spending. Sort of two key metrics there is, one, state grid. I mean, the state grid company of China uses a significant portion of, the world copper supply. It's a pretty crazy percent. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's it's much larger than most countries in the world, I think, except for China. Just with one company. And, about 6 weeks ago, semis producers in China who produce the cables and so forth that sort of feed that supply chain for state grid were up over 100% of capacity at that time. There's some other metrics that a commodity analyst look at. And again, I would encourage people to go and read as many different commodity analysts, because a lot of people have quote the sort of their favorite indicator. So one that I've seen a couple times and much like is excavators, right? You're not going to speculate on excavators. It's a sort of, it's used very broadly. And, those are up, excavator sales are up 60% year over year in April. So, that's a pretty good sign that, there's a big shove happening to get the economy going, from the government in China.
Okay, so that's great for copper, but are there other metals which will give us clues as to, what's going on? Like say bulks, for instance. I mean, what's happening there?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, is that, again, you have to be careful not to just look at one metal, because the supply dynamics of that specific metal, might be influencing what's going on. But one of the things I always like to check to see what's going on is if you see a few base metals moving and then you see the bulks moving, because again, it's easy to speculate on a few thousand tons of copper and shove it in a warehouse somewhere, but you're not going to speculate on, a 200,000 ton iron ore shipment and think about storing that for 3 or 4 months. So, iron ore imports, have been rocketing into China. And iron ore prices, again, are at very, very, very solid levels. So, the fact that you're seeing this in copper, seeing this in the bulks, and then you're seeing these other economic indicators, talking about excavator sales and so forth, I think that's, that really helps confirm that, we are, we're on our way up here.
And what do you think that means for nickel?
Yeah, no, I think the nice thing is in terms of nickel, we're seeing the same sort of things happen. So stainless prices are up 10% year over year, even though stockpiles, again, we had talked earlier, nickel, about how prices went way too high, had to correct, and we're going to be along the bottom here. Is stainless inventories built up quite a bit in China as we fell down that price. Inventories have come down a bit. They still have a ways to go. We'll see, maybe by the end of the May, we're a long way back to where we were, because stainless prices are already up 10% off the bottom. So that's a pretty good sign, that again, they're seeing their order books come in if they're already lifting prices with a bunch of inventory in the stainless steel side still sitting around. In terms of nickel metal specifically, what we're seeing is the discount in China between nickel pig iron produced there and nickel has closed quite a bit. The ARB, that I talked about in copper, is not quite open yet, but looks like it's heading in that direction. And then very importantly on the supply side, one of the things, because I talked before, initially back in September that we're going to have a July-August turn, and then post-COVID, I said, okay, it's off to year end. But it might actually be coming back in towards maybe September, October now, is, Indonesia banned ore exports in January 2020. That was going to cause, stockpiles to shrink. Well, COVID has basically shut down all the mines in the Philippines, which are sort of the replacement source for some of what Indonesia was shipping. So we're seeing ore imports on the ground in China again approach multi-year lows. So that's really setting up for that supply squeeze within China. Now Indonesia's growth there is up by 50% or more in terms of nickel pig iron coming out of China. So that's offsetting some of the gap. But it looks like things will be tightening up. Definitely in the second half. So quite keen on to see that coming down the pipeline for nickel.
Well, yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, that's very good news for nickel. But what do you think it means for investors? You had said, okay, this may be a few months out here. But now with what's happening in the market, are you seeing nickel investors coming back in? I know you at Canada Nickel have, the share price has tripled and it's all good news for you. But what about, some of the other, bigger players? Are they seeing a renewed interest in the market?
I don't know in terms of how the equities have yet to respond to that. Again, prices of commodities have come up off the bottom, but the thing I would encourage investors is again when you have these turns, they don't happen gradually, and you kind of think, oh, I'll maybe pick some up next week or in 2 weeks, or I'll gradually get back in. You always have a short covering that happens at the bottom, and you end up with these, all of a sudden you wake up, and copper prices are up 15 or 20 or 25%, and the copper equity, the liquid copper equities have started to move, pretty dramatically. And again, in any market turn, it's going to be the most liquid names that go first, and then it starts trickling down. So, in terms of your junior explorer at this point in time, we still have to sort of, trickle down that pipeline. But, it's when you start to see these signs, start to get ready, and then watch, if you can start to see that cascade happening down towards whatever type of companies you invest in.
Can I just ask you very quickly? I know we spoke at the beginning of the week about Canada Nickel, but we've had such a good response to that, and some of the questioning that came back was, is there going to be a US listing?
Yeah, no, we're definitely, that's the next listing that we want to get it done. So, we will work to get a full OTCQX listing, because I know that makes it easy for US brokers to, trade the stock for their clients and so forth. So, that's definitely coming down the pipe, and we'll get back to you and let you know as soon as it's ready to go.
Okay, we'll watch this space. Look, Mark, thanks very much for coming on and answering some of these questions. It helps us, get back to, the viewers and followers of this show who are always quite engaged when it comes to nickel. So appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yep, most definitely, sir. Take care.